Hello once again and welcome back to PodCoder. I am really happy to have you here with me in this series. So in the previous part of this series, we have successfully developed this common repository and common state classes in order to fetch the data from the server or the categories or the countries from the server and also transform it to these separate classes. And also we successfully injected these classes with the help of this injector here. So then we will be able to have access to instances of these classes whenever we want to have. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to continue developing our form. So for that, what I'm going to do is, and instead of returning this this container widget, I'm going to return at new opportunity, and this does not exist. You see here I am prefixed it with underscore, means that and this is a private class. So we will have an stateless widget, and the name of this stateless widget would be at new opportunity. And here what I'm going to do is I am going to return a single child scroll view. You might be asking why I am using a single child scroll view, because you see right now this form is a little bit lengthy, right? And this form might be opened on the smaller size devices as well. So if we do not use some kind of scrolling, some part of the form will not be visible. So for that we are using a scroll view, and you can use a list view or there are many options that you have in Flutter, but I'm using the single child scroll view, which is the easiest one. Okay, so we'll have the child, and this child would be a padding, and this will have a padding which is a constant h inset dot, not all symmetric, I'm going to put, and we will have a vertical padding of 20 and also horizontal padding of 15 points. Okay, let me save that. Still we don't have anything else here. And for the child of this padding we will have a column, and this column will have children's, and for the first children let me put a text here for testing purpose. Let me save it. You can see we have this testing here, which has some padding on the top and also some padding on the left, which is vertical and horizontal padding. Okay, so I'm going to remove this test widget. We don't need it. What we need is we need this text field for the title. And if you remember, we have done such things, especially in our auth sign in. We have created this text form field in the previous videos. What I'm going to do is I am just going to copy this stats rebuilder, not going to copy it. I'm going to create it for the first one. If you are new to this series, so you know what we are going to do is, and if you are you were following this series with me, then you can skip this one. So now what we will have is we will have a state builder widget, and this state builder widget, it is coming from the states rebuilder package. And let me go here, we will have it, I think here, let me find it to show it to you. So we'll have a state builder widget with this bunch of properties, and this state builder change its state according to the reactive model. So if you know what is reactive model, just click on it, and I believe the reactive model is just an observable. You can see here it is an observable part that will observe widgets and can subscribe to it, so then will be notified to rebuild. So we will have a reactive model, and this state builder will help us to rebuild the state whenever there is some changes. So this will have an observe, right? Observe, and this will observe a reactive model. So what will be our reactive model? the reactive model, we need to create it, right? And that is our title, and so we need to create a class of it and put it there. So what I'm going to do is I am going to the classes, and inside the classes we have opportunity, and inside the opportunity I'm going to create a directory. I will call it as form underscore fields, right? And here inside this form fields, I'm going to create another class. This will be our title form field, and this is a pure Dart class. So this will be our title form field, and we'll have a final property which is a string, and this will be our title. So you will be asking why I am doing these things. See, we can put a simple string here, and for our text form field, but this will work with some small projects. And if you are working on a larger application or a medium-sized application, then you need to have some kind of flexibility, and some common usage of some classes, and also you need to handle it in a way that will reduce the complexity. And if you are put everything inside this UI, in future you will end up with some spaghetti code that you cannot handle it anymore. So for that reason we are doing all this stuff, and this title is a class, and I'm going to show it why we have used this one. So now this will have just a string title. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a method. I will call it as validate, and here what we are going to do is we will check if the title, which is an instance of this class, it is equal to null, or the title is empty, right? What we are going to do is we want to throw an error, because this is a part of our form validation. I told you in the previous video, this is also an important part of designing or developing the application. We need to have some kind of validation for this form. So how we can handle that? We will have this validate method, and we will check if the title is null, or the title is empty, or any other kind of validation that you want. Suppose if you want the title dot length should be greater than 10 or something, you can put it here. And if you're not, so any kind of validation that you want, you can put it here. So if that is happening, means the title is null or it's empty, we want to throw an exception, means that it is not correct, right? And in the message of this exception, we want to say that the title is required. The title is required. Okay, so we will I will show you how we can use this one. So now we have this title form field, and how we can use it, we need to create a reactive model of this form field. So how we can create a reactive model, and that is also coming from the Stats Rebuilder package. So if you don't know, just click here on the local and global reactive model. In this case, what we want is we want a local reactive model, because we want to use it in this form, right? So I'm going to click on this local reactive model, and here we have many things that we can use. See the observer pattern, and I told you the reactive model is basically an observer, and right now we want to just create it like this. So we have the foo rm, which is the rm.create, and this is the foo class. So now I'm going back to my stateless widget, and here I'm going to put final title rm, and this is going to be equal to rm.create, right? To create a new reactive model. So basically we are creating an observer from this pure Dart class. So it will kind of be an observer, a reactive model. It is not a simple it is not going to be a simple Dart class anymore. So now we are creating rm.create that title form field. So now for the initial part, we want to put the title this title part as empty. So we have created an observer from this title form field or a reactive model from it. So it is no longer a simple Dart class. Let me remove these constants because we have some properties which are not constants or immutable. So now we have this title and we can observe it, right? We can observe it. We can observe the changes. We can observe if there is an error. We can observe if there is data, right? And if I hover on this S3 builder, you can see that it has a bunch of other properties that mostly we will use in this series. Okay, so right now, this S3 builder will rebuild itself according to this title RM, which is an observable. So it will have a rebuilder, a builder. And if I hover on this builder, you can see it is a function which has the build context and also the reactive model, and the return type is widget. So we are not interested in either the context and also the reactive model, but we need to return a widget, and this widget is our text form field. So let me save it, and yes, we have a form field. Okay, so now it is the time to put a real text form field. So I'm not going to bore you with the design because we already have designed these text form fields in our, if you remember, in our sign in and sign up pages. So here we have this text form field that I am going to just copy it from here and I'm going to paste it, but I will explain it to you. Okay, so we have it here. So this text form field will have this onChange method, obscure text no, this is used for the password, and also we have this input decoration for it. That here we have the model, which is our title model or our title RM. But this title RM, if you see, it doesn't have a set password, right? So on change of this text field, we are going to set the title of this reactive model, and we are going to set it. We are not going to put the state. We are not interested in that state. We are going to return a new instance of that text form field class. Oh, that title form field, and I misspelled that. Let me put it here and let me change it to okay, let me change it to form, right? So it's here. Okay, so now it is correct. So in every time, or in, let me close this nav bar as well, sorry. So in every set state of this title RM, we are going to return a new instance of that title form field, right? And we are going to pass the title. Here we don't have the password, so on state change of this text form field, we are going to return a new instance of this title form field, and we are going to pass the new title to it, and we are catching any error if it is there. So we have it in this way. But if you see the design, let me go back here, the design is not that way. But first we need to remove the icon. Let me remove it. We have the hint text as enter your password. This should be enter opportunity title. Okay, let me save that. And also for the border radius, we are not going to put 30 here. Rather, I'm going to put 12. I think it should be sufficient. Yeah, it looks better. And one thing else that I'm going to put is the a label text. So basically this text form field has many what we can say, many properties that you can use. One is the label text, and it is if I hover on it, you can see it is a string. So we'll have the title. So if I save that, you can see we have this nice title here, because once we are once we are typing here, the hint will gone, but the title is always there. Okay, so we have this text form field, but you can see right now we have put it this validation. If you remember, let me click on the title form field. You can see we have this validation, but the validation is not working. So we put if the title is null or the title is empty, it should kind of have some kind of error, right? But right now, unfortunately, it is not showing, and that is why, because we are not calling the short rebuild method of this state rebuilder. Means on any change it should rebuild itself. Okay, so if I save it right now and if I put something here, and it should work. Okay, so let me open the the console and check if there is any error. So let me refresh this one. Sometimes that's a strange behavior is happening, I don't know. So let me put it here. Oh, everything is fine, but it's not working. It is strange, honestly. So we will have the observe a title rm, and we are setting the title. Oh, we are not calling the validate, right? We should call the validate with this one. It means if we are returning a new instance of this title form field class on each set state, we are going to call the validate method on it to validate the entered value. So if I put something, it is okay, but if I click on it and kind of delete it, it should validate it. Why it is still not working? Honestly, it is quite strange to me, and we have some problem here. rm.create, rm.inject, we don't need that. Let me refresh it again. Okay, let me go here, let me put something here, and yes, it is working. So basically, if the title is empty or the title is if the title is empty or the title is null, we'll have that strange error, right? So this validation, you can see that we kind of like put it this double dots. What this double dots means? A dot means that first you initialize this class and then call this validate method on it. Means this is a second operation that going to be executed after this one. So now if I click on this validate, and then if I add another validation, suppose I want or the length, like the title dot length is less than 10 characters, what we want is still the error to be there, right? So still right now, let me click. Oh, it's not working. It's strange. Let me refresh that. I don't know what's happening here. Okay, so now if I put, you can see still we have the error. Means why? Because we have the less than 10 characters, but once we are more than 10 characters, the error is gone. Okay, we have done such thing in the form field, if you remember. Okay, now the next part is mostly the same. So what we are going to add is the first thing, that inside the text form field, inside the opportunities, I am going to create the description form field, the dart. This is also another class description form field, and this will have the same thing. Like, let me copy it here because I don't want to waste your time by explaining this one. So let me change just the name from title to description. Everything else would be the same. The same thing, this will have a string property. We are going to initialize that, and oh, still I misspelled that. I don't know what is going on with me. Description, it is okay. Okay, and also we need to change this one from title to description. So we'll have description. Okay, and also let me close this navigation bar. Here we'll have the description. So we are going to initialize that, and also we are going to change it. Suppose in this part we want, if it is less than 10 characters, it should throw an error, right? But for the form field, let me remove this part because we don't want it. And if you want, you can put it there. So now what we can do is, I am just going to duplicate this part, and for this we will have the description the same way, right? and this is going to be the description form field. And what we are going to do is I am just going to copy this stats builder, and I'm going to put it after this. Let me save that. It is coming after it. So what we want is between these two, we want to put a sized box, and the height of this sized box is 10. This is basically we want to add some vertical spaces. Okay, and here we will have our description, right? Description rm, and after that we will have our description. We will have our description. Let me press Command D or Control D if you're using Windows. So we will have description, and instead of this title we are going to return the description form field and initialize it with the new description value that we are getting from this on change of this text form field, and we're going to validate that. And instead of opportunity title, opportunity description, we are going to put, and for the label we are going to put description. Okay, so let me save that. It is there, but here we need to have the we need to have the description rm. Okay, so now we are good to go. But if you see here, the description is a multi-line, so we are going to put a maximum lines as I'm going to put 5. Let me check it. Yeah, it is okay, and right now we are having it. That is really good, right? It looking awesome. Okay, and you can put like 6 lines if you want, a little bit more, but I don't know. Okay, so now it is there. So we have our title, we have our description, and it is the time to create the category and the country, because these two, the deadline and organization, is mostly the same as this, but these are drop downs and we already fetch the data from the server, right? So now we need to find out a way to bind it. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to just copy this stats builder, and I'm going to put a size box here. So you can see that still we are repeating ourselves. The height would be 10, and I'm going to put that stat builder again, but this time we are not returning a text form field, rather we are returning a drop down form field. So it is drop down form field and drop down button form field, and you can see already it is complaining because in the drop down we don't have maximum lines. And if I hover on this one, it says the parameter items is required, and if I put the items, it is still complaining because this item is a list of drop down menu item. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return a drop down menu item, and this drop down menu item will has a text for now, and I'm going to put as a scholarship for testing, scholarship, whatever it is. Don't worry about it. And you can see it is still complaining because the type of this drop down menu item, or the value of this, is dynamic, and this is kind of expecting a string on change of it. So we need to put the value, okay, value as some string. That's it. Means if I don't specify the value, it considers a T or a dynamic, and here on change of it we are expecting a string. So if it does not match, it will complain. So now we are good to go, right? If I click on this, you can see we have a scholarship, and if I kind of duplicate this one and put for the value as 1 or something, and put this one as fellowship and store it, and click here, you can see we have a scholarship and fellowship. But we don't want to hard code these values, right? Because in the previous video, if you remember, we have fetched the data from the server, means the categories and also the countries, and we've what we did, we fetched this data, and also in a state, in common state, we have created this list of countries and also list of repositories. So what we want is we want to bind those values, or the values that we got from the server, to these drop downs. Okay, how we can do that is really simple. With the help of a states rebuilder, here what we are going to do is, in the single chart, after this single chart, this scroll view return, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of cut everything. I'm going to cut everything and use a widget called when rebuilder or. So if you don't know about this widget is also coming from the states rebuilder. So if you come here, you can see you have when rebuilder or and when rebuilder. So there is a tiny kind of difference between these two. Basically, these are also that states builder widget which rebuild itself. So if you use when rebuilder, you need to override this on observe, on idle, on waiting, and everything. But if you use when rebuilder or, you can implement any of this. So we use when rebuilder or widget, and right now what we want is we want to observe on what we want to observe some observe many reactive models, and also on the builder of it we want to return what we want to return. Oh, this needs because this is also kind of a states builder, it has the state and also reactive model. We want to return that a scroll view. So you will be wondering why I did so, and in just a minute you will find it out. Why I am doing so? Because if you see here, once we are navigated to this page, and once we fetched, the first thing what we want is we want to fetch, right? We want to fetch the category and also the countries from the server. And we created these repositories. We created the common repository and also the common state, but we never called this get categories and get countries method anywhere inside our application, right? So even though we have implemented this, but we haven't called these methods. So we haven't called this method to get the data from the server, right? So now what we want is this is when rebuilder or, and because why I did so, we have the init state. On init state of this widget, I want to call to that, right, to that methods, and those methods are inside our common state, and we injected already our common state, so we can have access to an instance of it. So I'm going to put a comment here. Let me put a comment here. These are our form fields, and just above these form fields I'm going to initialize another property, and that is our final what is that, common state, and it is equal to rm.get common state, right? Common state. How I can access it here, because before this one I injected, and on the builder of it I returned this stateless widget, so I have access to an instance of it. So anytime if I want a new instance of this common state, I can have access it here. So this is called dependency injection, right? And we can have access to a new instance of this common state. Okay, so we have these common states here, and here we can put it inside this observe many. So there is a tiny difference on this observe and observe many. For the observe that we used here, we are just observing one reactive model, but observe many means that we are observing many reactive models. So for now we have only one, but in future we can have more and put it here. Okay, so now we have these common states, and what I want to do is on init state of this when rebuilder or, I want to call this common state dot set state s and s dot categories, right? Not categories, get categories. So basically we are calling this. Okay, so now if I click on it, so let me refresh it because it is not working. And if I put here, you can see right now we have our form. But the good thing is I want to demonstrate something. Let me put this common state and also is or state.get countries as well. And if I save it, and if I go to common states and just print something, print categories here, sorry, print categories here, you can see, let me go back here and let me come back. You can see we have an instance of categories, like category, which is a list, means that we call to this method and we fetch the data from the server, we bind it here, so we have access to it. So it is the good way to have those properties here, and right now we can use it in our drop-down model. But you can see right now what we have is we have the description RM. The same thing with this one. I am going to create another text form field and I'm going to put it as a category, right? So this is category form field dot dart, the same thing. And I am going to copy the description again, put it here inside the category. So let me change this one to category form field. We will have the category, not we will have the category, not the description. So I am going to put this one as category, and for now, for this one, we don't want any kind of validation, so I'm going to just remove these things, and in future we will do that. And after doing so, what I'm going to do is, again, let me close this navigation because I have small size screen, and for that we need to duplicate this. We need to put the what's called the category, right? The category RM, and here I need to return the category form field. Just make sure that you're using this category, and for default I'm going to put null because we don't have any category right now. So I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to come back here and the drop down button form field, and for the description I'm going to just change it here and put as category RM, right? And for the menu items, what I'm going to do is because if you see here, we have something, and that is our common states. And this common states, if you see, we have a list of categories that we can use it and loop through it. And the good thing about when rebuilder or is that we can just wait for on waiting, means for wait for the time that it is trying to fetch the data from the server, which is a method. And here we can return another widget. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return a container on waiting of this widget, and here we'll have a child which is a center. So this will have a child, and that is a progress, or sorry, circular. So circular progress indicator, and that's it. So let me save it. So now what I'm going to do is I want to demonstrate something, and that is this on waiting. What does it mean? So let me put something here inside this get categories, and that is our future.delayed. And for the duration, we want to delay this operation by some minutes. Let me put 5 seconds, sorry. This should be seconds and 5 seconds. I want to delay this operation, and I'm going to await for it. So we need to await for this part. Let me just go back and come back to this page. And let me refresh this because it's let me just put this one here as well because it will disable it. So now you can see that if there is something, I mean, if there is some duration, or if there is some loading time which loads from the server, what it will do is it will kind of wait for this operation to end. And for the first one, why it wasn't working, because we are not awaiting for it. Let me put this one as async, and then await for this operation to accomplish, and then for this one as well. So now if I save it and if I go back, you can see that this is waiting for the first operation to end and then for the second operation, and if that was successful, then we have this form. Means we mimic some kind of network operation, that if we have, or we are fetching the data from the server, it has some delay, right? So we have that. Let me remove it, we don't want it. So now we have those like categories, and also we have the countries, and from the common state. So let me just copy the common state. Sorry, just I'm scrolling top and bottom, kind of confusing you. And for these items, I'm going to call the common states dot state, common state dot state, and dot categories dot map. And for the map, I'm going to return a drop down menu item. And for the child, we'll have a text, and this will have the E, which is our category. We are mapping to each category, right? So we'll have the E dot and dot name, I believe it is there. And after this map, where this ends, let me click on it here. We need to call toList, because we want to return, or we want to make a list of this one. But this is still will have some errors. You can see already it is complaining, and the reason I told you before, and that is because it is trying to get a string, but here we are looping through each category. So we have a list of category, right? We can have just a category here without any type, but if I try to put category here, still it will complain, because the type dynamic is not a subtype of category. And the reason for that is because we need to cast this one, we need to cast this form field to category. So if I do so, the category, and I need to bring the category class. So class is common application. Right now it is not complaining anymore, and here we need to return and instead of this description form field, we need to return forgot that. So this is category form field, right? And for that it requires a category. So we are done, and we are calling validate. So everything is there, and this menu item needs a value, and that is the E, which is a category. Okay, and here we need to just put as a select category, and here we have the category. So that's it. You can see if I click on it, a scholarship, fellowship, and internship, and these are coming from our database. Here we have the categories. So we have three categories: scholarship, fellowship, and internship. If I put something else, like suppose if I put test and save it inside the database, and right now if I go back here and come back, you can see we have the test here, because this data is real data, and this data is coming from the database. Let me delete this one and save it. So we are done. So let me go back here, kind of refresh this page, and you can see that test is gone. So for a quick recap, what we have right now here, we have the states rebuilder, and we are listening to the category RM that we created, and instead this text form field, we are returning a drop-down button form field, and this drop-down button form fields requires this item that we got from the server or from the database, or from the backend, and we are looping through each item, and we are creating or generating this list of categories from it, and the rest, which I explain it a little bit. Just if you don't mind, study a little bit about state when rebuilder or widget, and which is from the states rebuilder I told you. And this is also kind of a state builder widget, but with some other properties, and those properties we have seen. The first thing is the on init state. So on init state of this widget, we are calling to this endpoint from the server. We are getting the data, and on waiting on it, we are we are displaying this progress indicator. And if that waiting is done, then this builder will return this single child scroll view with the with the categories and everything. So now what I'm going to do is, again, I am going to copy this part. I know I'm just repeating this copying. We will clean this code later, don't worry. And for the category RM, let's go back to the form fields. I'm going to Control C and Control V, or copy this category form field and change it to country form field. And let me remove this copy from it. We are done. So instead of this category, let me just copy it. We will have country. Let me bring the country class, and let me change this category to country. Okay, so we are done. We don't want this category anymore. I'm going to back to this new opportunity page, and on the top, let me close this navigation bar, and here I am just going to duplicate this category RM. I'm going to rename it to country RM, and here we are going to return the country form field. So by default, it is initializing to null, and then we can use it. So I'm going to copy this country RM, and scrolling to the bottom. Here we have I just copy and paste it, if you remember. So instead of this category RM, we have the country RM. So we have it here. Let me press Control D, and then save it. So we have this country RM, and on a state or on change of this drop down button, what we want is, we want a country, right? So we want to bind this one to a country, not a category anymore. It will complain because we are mapping to the countries, so the categories. So instead we want to map through the countries here, and then we are returning this value, which is a country, and here select country instead of category. So we are good to go. It's complaining here, and that is because we haven't imported the country, and instead of this category, I'm just going to put the country. Okay, and here we don't want to return a category form field, we want to return a country form field, right? Because we want to return a new instance of the country. So we have all the countries fetched, and if I click on this one, yes, it is there and it is binded, and if I select any of these countries, you can see it is coming. So we have this scholarship, we have the categories, and also we have the countries bonded with this form field. And the good thing is that everything is coming from the server, and we are looping through it. And I did try to demonstrate most of the part. I know it is a lot to get at once, and if you try it, I'm quite sure that you will get it. And it's like the good thing is that right now everything is separated. You can see that these classes are separated, and we have a state and also the repository, and a way that we are fetching the data. So in future we will clean this code a little bit, and you will see that mostly what we are using here is the UI, not so we handle fetching the data from the server and everything to the repository and also to the state. So this is how you can kind of separate the logic of your application and put it in some places. So this is what I was talking from the beginning. Okay, I think this video is still lengthy, and we were not able to finish this form. And the good thing is that this form only has this deadline and organization, which is really easy. So in the next video, what we are going to do is we are first going to design this too, and then clean the code, and as well as save the opportunity on the server. Thank you for watching, and kindly subscribe to the channel if you're not, so you do not miss the next video. And yeah, wish you a really good time, and see you in the next video.